don't know if you've been following how Target has been pulling its Pride merch in response to conservative backlash and saying they're doing it to protect employee safety. But there's more to the story, and I guarantee it's going to piss you off. Target has invested millions in advertising so that we would forget this part of its history, namely that its entire Pride collection came as a response to years of protests and boycotts from members of the LGBTQ plus community, from Human Rights Campaign, Lady Gaga, other human rights organizations, because of Target's track record of funding anti-gay politicians. This is a great article. It goes way in depth, so I'm going to link to it. But read this part. This was written in 2016. The short version is that in 2010, when Target got called out for donating $150,000 to a particularly hateful politician, it essentially shrugged its shoulders and the CEO issued a non-apology apology similar to the one that the CEO issued this week, and they promised to do better. And protesters asked, okay, will you donate $150,000 to the communities affected by this hateful politician? And Target said no, but we're going to do better. Next year came around and lo and behold, they're still donating to assholes. So the protests and the boycotts continued, and Target was actually pretty glib and alienating, even mocking towards some of these protests, until they kept losing money. And then what was their first order of action to right their wrongs? They released Pride merch, which is essentially Target saying, we won't stand with you, but we will sell to you. So let me get this right. 1 year after Target argued in court that marriage equality supporters were angry and aggressive, it runs millions of dollars in ads to position itself as their champion? Yeah, that tracks. So where this article leaves us in 2016 when it was written is with the idea that Target ended up on the right side of history, or so we thought. They ended up backing marriage equality and making a ton of money off of it. And then in 2016, they took a stand saying that trans customers and employees could use whichever bathroom aligned with their gender identity. And of course, this received its own protests and backlash from conservative hate groups, religious extremists, the same talking heads calling for boycotts today. But Target continued selling its Pride merch, investing in ads, positioning itself as a champion of the LGBTQ community until this year. Flash forward to this week. Target is receiving backlash yet again from conservative hate groups and religious extremists who are now mobilizing people to go into Target stores and take out their rage about Pride merchandise directly on store employees. But now that you know the history, you know that headlines like this positioning Target as the victim here are complete and utter bullshit. Here's a headline that's a bit more accurate. A stop clock is right twice a day, and I hate to say it, but Fox News is coming in with a more accurate headline here, because let's be real. Target didn't pull its Pride merch for the safety and well-being of its employees. They pulled its Pride merch for the safety of its profits. In its attempts to avoid a Bud Light situation, Target has now gone further than Bud Light in showing how superficial its solidarity really is. Bud Light used Dylan Mulvaney for an inclusive cash grab and then abandoned her when their profits suffered. She continued to receive backlash and death threats, and all of this validated and vindicated the religious extremists, the conservative hate groups. The difference between Bud Light and Target is that Target has experienced this backlash before. Target is aware of these conservative hate groups. They've been on the receiving end of their ire for years, and yet they still failed to put protocols in place. They failed to plan so that they could both protect their store employees, but also make sure that the communities that they're selling to and purporting to express solidarity with are safe as well. They're not protecting the creators that they've commissioned for their Pride merch. You're telling me that the same year, a record number of anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced across the country, that a company that has spent over a decade advertising itself as a champion for this community didn't see this coming, didn't have the time or foresight to be able to put protocols in place to protect its employees and the community that it purports to stand in solidarity with, all while vindicating and emboldening hate groups that are escalating violence against this community? Target wants you to buy the change, but it won't be the change because it's the thing that needs to change.